Twin Peaks The Gifted.
And
The Damned.
And the Damned. And the Damned. A large house made of wood, surrounded by trees.
Welcome to Twin Peaks The Gifted.
And The Damned.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM. At Fit and Trim on Twitter. And with me, as always, is somebody who loves taking off his face. It's Mork. Mork, how you doing?
Oh, Bubba, I am doing so great. If you want to ask me how great, you can do that on Twitter at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with the W in front of the final R. But man, oh man, I had a pretty cool experience recently.
You did, and Mork, it makes me so jealous that you had this great experience.
That's
that our double L's.
Double L's?
Well, that's who we like to call our loyal listeners that they're going to love to hear about. But this, Mork, just 2 weeks from today, the day we're recording this, they are going to be releasing Mark Frost's book, The Final Dossier.
Oh, man. No pressure.
Another bit of new Twin Peaks info. Can you believe it?
I can believe it. I don't know if I can handle it or process it, but yes, I can definitely believe it. I'm very much looking forward to it.
And we're going to be covering it on Twin Peaks The Gifted.
And The Damned.
In depth, just like we did Mark Frost's book, The Secret History of Twin Peaks. If that wasn't enough, today, Mork, the day we're recording this,
yes,
just 1.3 miles away, according to Google Maps, there is a Twin Peaks pop-up store.
Get out.
That's the Double R Diner. It's
Double
just
R?
Railroad Diner.
Yay!
That's just literally 1.3 miles away from my house here. We're going to go check that out. We're going to interview people in there. We're going to get more prizes that we're going to give away to our Double L's.
Double L's.
Loyal listeners. And we've got a new way for them to win. You've been so gracious, listeners, to give us those written iTunes reviews. We love them, love them, love them. But now we've got a new way that you can help us on the Gifted
and the Damned
podcast, and that is promoting podcasts when you don't have any ads is very difficult. So what's going to happen, every time we release a new episode of the podcast, obviously we put a notice of it on Facebook. We put out tweets on our Twitter handles. Our Facebook page, of course, is facebook.com/double-P podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast, plural, facebook.com/double-P podcast. And so, if you want to be entered to win some of these incredible, amazing Twin Peaks prizes, all you have to do is on Facebook, share the post where we say there's a new episode of Twin Peaks The Gifted and the Damned, or retweet our tweets. That's how you can get entered. Obviously, if you do both, that's multiple entries you can be in. We're going to be picking up a lot of prizes at this pop-up store, and we're going to tweet out pictures of them. You're going to love them. But you're not going to enjoy our visit to the pop-up store until, Mork, we get to enjoy your visit with a special Twin Peaks real-life celebrity that you did last week. What did you do last week, Mork?
Well, I still can't believe I got to do it, and I wish you could have joined me, but we have an interview with the amazing Grace Zabriskie. Best known as, well, I don't know if she's best known as Sarah Palmer, but definitely Sarah Palmer, who, if you listen to this podcast, you should know who that is.
You have an interview with Grace Zabriskie.
Well, we do, Bubba. We have an interview.
Well, I couldn't go. That was the one time of the week I couldn't get out of work. You went to her house and did this interview. Mork, we're going to play it right here at the top. This is incredible. She was so gracious to give up her time.
She was phenomenal, yeah.
From what I understand, Grace Zabriskie doesn't do many long-form interviews. She hasn't done many of these?
Nope, and as you'll hear, neither have I.
Oh.
So I do my best. I apologize in advance. I was definitely, I've been lucky enough to meet some, pretty well-known folks. And,
oh, yeah, me too.
And I cannot remember being so intimidated. And she did actually, and not that she was trying to be intimidating, but she's so present. She is so smart, and She is, strikingly beautiful and welcoming. She did sharpen some knives when I first got to her. When I first got to her place, so
she's listened to the podcast before. That's good.
She's taken your advice. She got your email, but she was so welcoming. She gave me a tour of her home. She does. If some of you don't know, and you should go to her website, GRACEZABRISKIE.com, and figure out how to spell it. But go to her website. You can see some, not all, but some of her amazing woodwork that she does, and she has. I don't know anything about woodworking. I learned this week, Bubba, I don't know much about interviewing people or woodworking.
The two skills you need for podcasting, that's a bit scary.
At one time. But her woodworking studio, it's all like, it looks like industrial like equipment. Like if she she needed to build an extra house, okay, yeah, just give her a weekend. And you should go check out. I can't really describe some of the. It's so intricate and beautiful. And the different woods she uses it's really fantastic. She gave me a tour of that, and then we just chatted, and it was really really exciting. So I hope everybody enjoys it, and
let's go to it right now.
Let's do it. Well, hello.
Well, hello.
We are here in a very secret location in beautiful, sunny Los Angeles with a beautiful, sunny, and amazing Miss Grace Zabriskie, who some of you may know as a lady named Sarah Palmer.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, and we're extremely excited to talk to you about you and Sarah and your work and all sorts of different media. And for a lot of us who were fans from many, many years ago, when the seasons 1 and 2 came out, when we first heard about the return, it was kind of unbelievable. Did you have any inkling that it might be coming back? Had you heard about it, or was it just a shock?
It had been a rumor, and I had been on stage with Mark Frost and I don't know, it was some sort of I don't remember what we were doing or where we were, but it was something where a bunch of us were were on a stage and we were being asked questions. And Mark was asked the question of the possibility of about the rumor that maybe there would be a third season of Twin Peaks, and he had every opportunity to sort of add fuel to that fire, but he absolutely denied it. And we know now that he was lying through his teeth perfectly. And, of course, they did already know that it was in progress. So
this was a relatively recent event where he was doing all of this lying.
Now it's not so recent, but, it was a couple of years, I guess.
Sure.
Probably before we actually...
okay, but it's been in the last decade or so.
Right,
it wasn't.
That's right.
Okay. It wasn't, a couple of weeks after Firewalk with Me came out or something like that. Okay. Yeah. Was that when you first heard that it was? Were you excited? Were you a little apprehensive in terms of revisiting?
Boy, I went through, I guess, so many stages of anticipation and trying not to feel that way because who knows what would really happen. Mm-hmm. And Cheryl Lee and I had become close again after doing a film together, I guess 4 or 5 years ago now. Okay. In which I played her mom.
All right.
And it's called The Makings of You. And we had sort of rekindled our friendship then and since. In fact, I spoke to her today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And... we had sort of talked to each other about this, and I talked to maybe sometimes Harry a little bit.
Sure.
And Harry Dean. Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, it sounds like you've stayed in touch with folks.
Just a few. I can't keep naming names of people that I was in touch with. Okay. But Ray too.
All right.
Yeah. A little bit, and a few people. I think Cheryl's really stays in touch more with more people than I did. But I would hear things, because like Sherilyn and they really get the news. They really are on top of things. So they were very good sources. But still, they didn't know either.
They didn't know either. They were lied to just as much.
Yeah.
Mark Frost lied to them as well.
Yeah.
Oh. Does either Mark Frost or David Lynch, are they both terrible liars or relatively truthful?
Well, I think they're as truthful as it suits them to be.
That's fair.
Like most of us, this was a very important secret to keep.
Sure.
As I see it. And I appreciate everything that they did to try and keep things, under the radar.
Right. In terms of actually, when the scripts were coming out, were you just given your pages for your parts, or did you know what was going to be happening in the return before you started?
No, we didn't know. We got, we got our scenes. That was it. Just
your scenes.
And the only way that we could tell anything is that if our pages happened to be page numbers 34, 35, 36, we knew that was significant in terms of where in the series it probably was, especially when then we would get pages that were more like, page 104. See, you could you couldn't really tell anything, but you could tell a little something maybe.
In terms of, the scripts was it one gigantic script, or in terms of where the page count was? I just want to...
Since I've never seen it as one script, I have no idea if it exists that way somewhere, but I believe that it was different scripts, but the page count kept mounting.
Kept going. And because initially, from what I've read, it was going to be fewer parts, not the 18. It was going to be something closer to 12. And then
I think there was a period where it was to have been broken up into 2 seasons.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that.
All right.
That was my impression at one point.
Understood.
And then suddenly it looked like, okay, there's going to be 18 episodes instead of 9 and 9. Well, it was still 9 and 9, clearly, but they would be. At some point we realized that it was all going to be aired consecutively.
While you were making it, or before it even began?
Not before it began, and it may not have been until we had finished the shooting that we knew exactly how it would be portioned out. Right.
And were you, before it all started, were there conversations, between you and Mark and David about what's Sarah going to be up to?
Well,
were there any discussions?
Cheryl and Ray and I went in and did this one thing. We went in and he had us talking as our characters. Do you remember that? There was a conversation with the 3 of us, and we all spoke as our characters. So that was scripted.
Aha, okay.
And damn it was scripted at the last minute. We went in there. We went in there that day, I remember.
Yeah.
And we were to just have this conversation. We were to talk about what we remembered, and we were to fondly do this, and remember this and that. Then now there's another little thing we're going to do, and here's a script that I wrote last night.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice.
So anyway, I did not have time to really learn what I was supposed to say as Sarah, because I need glasses to read.
So do I.
A lot of us do. But when you're working with a makeup artist who has never worked on you before, and you keep taking your glasses off and putting them back on in order to study something while they're working on you, it's not fair. It's not fair to them.
Right.
And I knew that, and I knew I was going to be just royally fucked, once we got in there. But it was, was I going to be able to learn this? So I got in there and I said, look, Cheryl and Ray, first of all, you have less to say. And second of all, you don't need glasses to read. And so you could study yours the whole time you were in makeup. I couldn't. And I have double what you have to say, because look how I go on and on. Plus, it's nutty stuff, and that's harder to learn.
Sure.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so I got through about half of it, and then I just said, okay, we're going to have to come up with something here. So I'm going to do some motion, and then that means give me my line.
Okay.
So we got through it that way.
So at that point after that happened, did you feel like, okay, you knew where and how things were going to go for Sarah in the return?
No, there wasn't going to be any return.
Right. And then
necessarily.
And then there was.
This was you know what? What this was PR for the
missing pieces.
Yeah, it was for that. It was
right.
Sort of PR for that. Right.
And yeah, and that it's interesting because I think one of the reasons why it's so fun to get to talk to you about Twin Peaks and Sarah is you've played the role in so many different circumstances. And, initially there was obviously the show with, it was Mark and David, but you had many writers and many directors. And then Fire Walk with Me, which is sort of a prequel.
Yes.
Without Mark Frost and obviously just David. And then, obviously worked with David beyond that, Inland Empire and Wild at Heart. And then with The Return, where it's just Mark and David again, and David's directing every single...
Yes.
So it's not Harrison Ford going to be Indiana Jones or Han Solo again. This is... the circumstances, the paradigm for playing the character seems like it's shifting more than what most actors have to do to play a role again.
Yes. So what I got from doing what I had to do that day was a sense of Sarah after all these years. Mm-hmm. And only in retrospect did I understand that was a bit of a guide for me. That was a crucial intelligence for The Return. Mm-hmm. But at the time, it was just, I don't know, it was just a little, interesting thing that she would be this crazy after all these years. But then why not? Why wouldn't she be?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
So at the time, that's how I saw it, right? And certainly completely committed to it. But didn't realize that it would serve me in good stead a few years on.
Right. And are there parts of, and I'm just really curious about Fire Walk with Me, particularly some of the stuff that was in the missing pieces, such as we're going to learn Norwegian sequence and some of it, the dinner scene where it really does feel like just how blatant of a monster that Leland really had become in certain situations. Yeah. Did that change what you had thought about Sarah, as far as, the show, or going back to the Return?
Okay, I don't understand that question.
I'm just laughing because Bubba will often hit me and ask me to make short declarative sentences. And
you could have all the clauses you want.
Oh no! So I'll try again. When a scene like the dinner scene, where you get to see Leland being far more overbearing and dictatorial than what we felt he was in the seasons 1 and seasons 2 of the show. Mm-hmm. Does that change how you felt about that relationship between you and between Sarah and Laura and Leland? And does it?
No, I don't. No, I don't think so. To me that felt organic.
Okay.
Perhaps another step into the morass of what we were living in, but
sure.
But nothing qualitatively different.
I think one of the reasons why Sarah is, in many ways, one of the, if not the most important character as far as watching the show, just because so much of what pulls you in the first couple episodes is you really feel the grief and the pain, which most TV shows are spending time with at first with the cops or and so that really for so many of us viewers, that really grounded the show. And so even if there was a guy hanging out with, talking to his tape recorder all the time and throwing rocks at bottles, it was always grounded in something very real and very painful. And it's interesting just because it's such a fundamental role and a part, and it really made everything kind of work. So having to jump in and out of it seems like it'd be a bit of a challenge.
No, it never. After when you've done a character for essentially a couple of years, I had a character in your head for a few years. Jumping back in is whoa. It's almost like a dialect, that you haven't used for a long time, and then suddenly you need it again, and so it's there.
Sure. In terms of when you were watching The Return, I mean, a lot of it, if you're only given your pages, what that experience was that
I was just one little piece of America.
In the sense that you were
absolutely aghast, agog.
And some of the things that there are theories such as in, I believe, episode 8, which is the one where after Nine Inch Nails plays their whole song, and then we get a lot of David Lynch.
Yep.
And it was stunning and beautiful. And there's the frog fly creature that crawls into the little girl's mouth. And there was theories that, well, is this Sarah or who is this in relation to? And so when you see things because there's so much in the show that may or may not have been connected to you, did you know what all of those things meant, or are you like many people where it's part of where the question is more important than the answer?
What?
I think I'm trying to ask too many questions at once. Well, maybe I'll.
This is why I can't do talk shows on TV, right? I will say, "What the fuck are you talking about? What was that question?" You can't do that.
No, you know more about this than I do. For example, in The Return, a lot of your scenes are you're flying solo, where you're at home, or even if you're in the grocery store, but we're not really focused on the kids behind the counter. We're focused on
until we are
on Sarah, and so. Is it hard to kind of get your bearings a little bit in terms of the larger arc when so many giant things are happening with you off screen, where your character is interacting with the other characters in the larger story, but you may not be aware of it because you're just getting your certain pages.
Right. But the question in there is what?
When you're the only actor in a scene and you're not necessarily aware of what's happening in other scenes, are you being told, hey, this is kind of what's going on, or is it just in other parts of the story? Or?
No, this is the way I look at it. I am right now talking to you completely unaware of what's happening in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Completely unaware of what's going on across the street.
Right.
So that's life.
Sure.
You don't know what's going on, so you play the moment.
And so when you watched it later on, did you think to yourself, well, if I knew this was going to happen after, I would have done it differently?
No. I stayed in the moment.
That's great.
Every minute I was in those moments, and I knew that David would have his ways of making me do what he wanted.
Sure.
And that's all I needed. So
right.
That's real. I just want to say one thing. I would not do that for any other director.
Other than David?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say, what else is happening? I would need a lot of information.
And that is just because of the history of having played Sarah for so many times?
No, it's because you have to work with him.
And so speaking of working with him, one of the things that we hear sort of mixed reports on is the degree and the level of improvisation or interpretation that he's open to. Sometimes you hear stories of Richard Beymer kind of dancing to loosen up his shoes, and then David puts it in. And other times, Jim Belushi was talking about getting yelled at for imposing a line. How did you improvise a lot with David, or was it very?
No, I don't improvise a lot. I don't say anything that I'm not supposed to say, but my job is still to surprise him.
Sure. There are many scenes this season where there were more questions after the scene than before, and whether
Sure.
it's. I mean, one of the scariest scenes for me was when Hawk comes to visit you at the door.
Yeah.
Do you know what that noise was in the kitchen? And are you allowed to say?
I'm not, but I don't
And do you care?
really.
It
I
was
sort of do. I mean, I sort of do. I know the type of thing that it was.
right.
You know, and so do you.
Well,
Evil's in there.
I think so. I think so. You know,
That's my favorite scene, by the way.
with Hawk.
Yeah.
Why was that your favorite scene?
Because I got to. So what I live for is doing something that I've never seen done on screen before.
Okay.
All right. And we, as actors, we have to be very happy with very small things.
Sure.
So it could be just a flash.
Uh-huh.
In this case, it was a little bit more than just a flash. And basically it was the following state. Oh, someone is in terrible, terrible trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Someone meaning very well says he hopes that you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to be told if you need anything. And even though you are letting him know, if he's paying attention, that you're not okay,
right.
and you desperately need help,
Mm-hmm.
and there's some goddamn thing in the other room, for God's sake,
Right.
and he doesn't twig to it.
Yeah.
He chooses not to. He stays in the good guy. Just let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And
Mm-hmm.
he couldn't be more sweet and helpful and all of that. But I get to look at him with the face of someone who knows that I am really, really on my own. And
Right.
that no one can help me. And I look at him with that
Mm-hmm.
terrible face. The first time I saw it, I thought that take lasted 17 minutes. The second time I realized, no, it really didn't last very long at all.
Sure.
But I thought that face that I made when I was looking up at him and, you know,
Hoping that he might do something.
no, I'm not hoping. I know better than to hope. But I'm just, you know, I've known better than to hope. No one can help me. I know that. But here is someone that I go way back with who hasn't bothered with me much
Right.
in all these years.
Yeah.
You know, but here he is, and he's heard that I was cuckoo at the grocery or whatever. And so he's coming by to check on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so clearly not okay.
Yeah.
And he's dealing with that as people do.
Right.
And I kind of, I think I wanted that scene to be about when people are in terrible trouble and other people are doing what he's doing,
Which is
meaning well, but not wanting to get involved.
right.
You know, and not really able to help, not really wanting to be able to help. Not really. Not really. What could I... And not even acknowledging that, even to himself.
Right. A scene like that, which is at once terrifying and heartbreaking, and then you see the same character, and even though it's only over the telephone, but some of, you know, when you were watching, you know, Hawk talk to the log lady, do you feel like in Sarah's mind, would that be more of the same from Hawk? Like he's kind of helping, but he's not helping enough?
It was a little bit, now that you mention it. Sure, a little bit. She was at the end of her life, and she knew it, but she wasn't crazier than she's ever been, or anything like that.
Sure.
So she wasn't really expecting anything. But there are similarities, I guess, except that she had no reason to resent that, you know,
Right.
the way my character did.
Yeah, and I'm reluctant to ask what I'd like to ask, because one of the things about the show and the experience of watching the show is there's so many open-ended parts of it where I think that certain things have to be defined by, you know, the viewer and by the audience.
Yes.
And so if you don't want to answer this because you don't want to define anything, then I will
good.
defer. So when you're at the bar
Yes.
And it feels like was that what was in the kitchen or in the back? That, was it a tulpa or a doppelganger that was at the bar, or was that in Sarah all along?
What do you think?
I go back and forth on this quite a bit, and I don't feel that if that was Sarah all along, that anything would have happened to Laura. And so, but I can see
If what was Sarah all along?
Well, the being that opened up your face.
Yes.
And we see...
Then nothing would have happened to Laura?
I think that being would have taken care of Leland Bob very quickly and very easily.
I see. Well, yes, I don't think that was in Sarah all along. I think Sarah's background, and this is just what I think, is such that there is a little bit of the psychic in her. And it always was.
In terms of some of the visions of the white horse and going back to very
just
early?
knowing immediately
Right.
that something had happened to Laura. It's there from the very, very beginning.
Sure.
That something's going on. And it's, there are a lot of versions of that.
There are.
Instances of that.
Sure. For me, I felt that there was several people who have similar types of, whether it's a vision or an instinct, that don't open up their face. And
No, I'm saying that the face opener business and other aspects of her that we see in the return. This is after the 25 years of horror and aloneness, and I think that the evil in the world has possibly entered her in some way, and that she is not in control of it. Sometimes she is simply an old woman who's been in grief for many years, and it's relatively simple. But then there's a space in her that can be occupied and entered and taken over. Even in the grocery store, she has same moments.
I mean, I think that there's, and this is one of the, I don't want to say it's one of the fun things about Sarah in the return, because it's not fun, but there was never a moment where, I don't really need to pay attention here. Whenever Sarah was on screen, it was really, okay, this is really,
okay.
This is, this is.
That's nice. Thank you.
Sometimes it feels like it's not fair for Sarah that the viewers get to see all of this pain, still going on for so long, because she's in, she's not the only person. Ben, for example, is somebody who I think is also, when we come back and see him, it's a different kind of pain that he's in terms of kind of what's happened, and we don't really know what's happened with Audrey, and
right.
we know what we know about Richard, and and all of that.
Right.
And he's a much different person than who he used to be, but Sarah's been in a place of pain for so long, where it just is like, come on, give her a break. Like, let her tool around in a convertible on the PCH or something, and just come on. Like, can't you have?
Yeah, that sounds like David Lynch all over.
You've worked with him so many times over so many years. Is it the same experience working with him all the time in terms of the working dynamic, or is it kind of different because the work, the specific project is different, or the role is different, and you're sort of starting over?
Oh boy, it's always the same and it's always different.
Right.
Every day is the same and every day is different.
So this is a sort of a Twin Peaks question, and it's sort of not. Some of our double L's might hear the trepidation in my voice as Ms. Zabriskie looks at my list of silly questions.
I can't read that.
Oh, okay, good. No, but one thing. So when you do something obviously your character in Seinfeld is much different than Sarah.
Yeah.
But when you're playing it with Mark Frost's dad, Warren,
Yeah.
who played Doc Hayward, or actually even, on Big Love when Bruce Dern wasn't, but you had worked with Laura Dern.
Yes.
And so is there either a shorthand that comes with that because of the prior experience, or do you try to reject that and try to kind of demarcate it from...
No, I don't try to compartmentalize anything. It all flows together. Working with Bruce and having worked with Laura and her mom as well, that was important for working with Laura. That was important for working with Bruce. Mm-hmm. It's a good thing, completely a good thing.
Right.
I guess if it has to be good or bad or something, But no, I don't have to block it out. It's all part of the input. It's all part of input.
Is there anyone from Twin Peaks who you would like to be married to in a future project?
Oh,
You've been married to Ray Wise, been married to Warren Frost.
Oh, I want to be married to Harry Goes without a big stomach and with better hair.
With better hair.
Yeah, not the hair in this last thing. I want good hair on Harry.
What would be good hair for Harry?
It's just his regular hair is fine.
So he's got actual hair. He had to trim some of that for the show.
Yeah.
Well, that is.
Harry's a great looking man.
He's pretty foxy.
Yeah.
But he was wearing a bit of a pillow or something. I mean, that's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the last time I saw him, he was sporting that gut, and I just didn't realize it.
All right. Do you think he needs to hit the gym a little bit? Is that?
No, I think he was. He must have had a bit of a pillow.
There's a couple of scenes where he's moving around where he's. Yeah, it feels like that's not actually what that might look like. But
I also would like to be married to Ray. I've been married in real life 3 times. So I don't necessarily need to pick one, do I?
No, I mean, no. 3 down, many to go.
I wouldn't mind being Kyle's rather older wife. That wouldn't be bad either.
By 3 or 4 weeks, maybe.
I was about to do a show with Kyle.
Really?
And I was looking forward to getting to work with him.
Yeah. There were not. You didn't have any scenes this time around. Is that? I don't know what you can do about it, but
nothing.
It kind of stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it does. And there are so many people that it turns out that you've worked with, but you didn't have a scene with them. Mm-hmm. So did you work with them? Right.
What was obviously he was not what we typically think of Special Agent Dale Cooper for many of the episodes.
That's right.
And, I'm just curious, when you're seeing that, I don't know, number one, did you have an inkling of...
Nope.
Was that frustrating for you as a viewer, and also let me just add, one of my favorite new character was Mr. C. But is it interesting to see when you're watching that you see, okay, well, I know Kyle, I know Cooper, so when I see Mr. C or when I see Dougie Jones, was that all new to you? Did you have any idea where that was going, or did you have a sense of, okay, this is how?
It was all new to me, and I sometimes was thinking, well, wait a minute, how many are there actually?
Right.
Are there 3? Am I now to think 4? Were there really only 2? It's 3, right?
Well,
basically,
this is a great question, and this is why I was thinking...
You thought I would answer it. No, not going to happen.
Well, you could find out.
What do I know? I could find out?
Sure.
How do you think I would do that?
I see you
ask David.
You got a fax machine.
Yeah, he's going to tell me.
You got a fax machine in the corner. You could put it out. No, so I think there's Mr. C, and then there was when there was Dougie Jones, who was not the best husband to Janie E. Jones, Naomi Watts, and then Coop came back through the electric socket. and then Dougie Jones became a golden. This is what happened.
I know.
A golden ball, and then later on, when after Dougie Coop became Coop again and said goodbye, he gave Mike a little bit of his hair to create yet another version. But at that point, Mr. C was vaporized, and whatchamadoodle, and Dougie was already gone. So 4 tops, but I think really only 2 at once. That's my
about at once. I mean, in total, how many versions did Kyle play?
For me, 4.
See, well, good.
Even though when he came back and went back with, well, you know what? Time out. This is another. We're forgetting Richard in part 18.
Yeah.
And so let's call it 5. And is that fair?
I don't know. I watched every episode at least twice, frequently more.
Was there one that stood out as a favorite or a...
But I have not gone back and watched the whole thing again.
I'm in the midst of doing that, and I think one of the, I think that there is how things fit together. In particular, there's some chronological stuff that is being is definitely being played with. But I guess I'm of the mind where everyone's take is pretty valid, when it comes to this. But did you feel so? For example, when you're watching the scenes in the Roadhouse, that sometimes there were some things going on, but other times we're meeting people who will never meet again.
Right.
Are you, when you're watching those, are you picking up on things in terms of this is here for a specific reason, or this is here to remind us of something, to set us up for something down the line?
Yeah, that's a good question to just about anybody else but me. Let's see. I sometimes sort of thinking, well, I don't think we're going to see this person again. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I think, oh, that's interesting. That's going to have to be fit in later to something else. This is going to go somewhere. I had all those inklings watching, and all of that was fun.
It's hard to look at it as, one of the things that, we're in the day and age now where on, say, Netflix or Amazon, you can watch 20 episodes in a row.
Right.
And that is, to me, how the return really should be experienced.
Yes.
And
I'm of 2 minds about that.
Okay.
Eventually, that's how it should be experienced. I am convinced that something new under the sun is going on with these episodes.
Yeah.
Every single one of them, I found this to be true. You watch it, and parts of it seem interminable. Mm-hmm. The second time you watch it, they don't.
Why do you think that is?
Well, first let me point out that it usually works the opposite way. Mm-hmm. The first time you see something, you see it. The second time, it seems longer, because you've seen it already, for God's sake.
Right. So when we see our friend sweeping, or our other friend...
Exactly. Very good example.
Preparing to leave a hotel room, but not really leaving the hotel room.
The second time you see it, it really doesn't seem that long.
And other than it seeming briefer, does it help with any part of what else is going on in that part or that episode?
Well, you invariably notice things you didn't the first time, so it helps in that sense, I guess.
Sure. Is there an example of something that the first time around you felt like, geez, this is going on for a while, and then the second time?
I could name up, at least one in every episode, if not more. Things that took forever. The very first episode. The first time you watch it, it's like, seriously? But the second time, no.
But you're talking about the whole episode, not a specific instance of someone sweeping the floor or
No,
something
almost that whole bit at the beginning with the looking out the window through that box
in New York
thing in New York.
Right.
I mean, did that not seem verging on interminable the first time you saw it?
I think I was so, oh my gosh, this is 25 years I've been waiting for this, so I'm going to...
I see. Well, that wasn't enough for me. I wanted the goddamn thing to be done with. No, but the second time I watched it was a very, very different experience. And that I noticed how different the second time was. And so I just sort of decided that that's the way I would watch all of them, at least twice.
Were you watching that? You'd watch it once and then watch it again before the next one came out?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's impossible to do that if you could stream them the first time.
100%. 100%. I felt that because I did not go back and watch during, while they were airing. I've gone back since.
Yeah.
And I've only changed my mind about 75 times.
Yeah.
Which for me is really, it really is one of the best things about the return, and why it's and this is something that Bubba, my co-host, who can't be here today, but he says hello.
And please give him my best.
Oh, I always do. So one of the things that Bubba and I would go back and forth on a little bit is to try to recapture, to try to do what Twin Peaks already did. In my mind, is not a good idea. And what they did this time around, and what you all did this time around, was, create something, especially now where I think television has gotten to be so good, and the audience has gotten to be pretty sophisticated, where I don't know anybody who was ever ahead of this show, and you were really forced to experience it as it happened, and there wasn't going to be the types of resolutions or explanations that, even when it's done extremely well in other shows, we get in other shows.
Yeah.
And that is, it's why it bears watching, again and again. And there are a few shows that I will watch because I enjoy it, or I don't know if you ever watched Deadwood, but sometimes I enjoyed it, but sometimes I couldn't understand what some people were saying, so I'd have to watch it just from so I'd get it, so it would be more intelligible.
Do you ever turn on your captions?
I don't. Although when we talk about when we would do our typical podcasts, which usually don't have such amazing artists in them, we will watch the show with the captions on, which helps. But typically, the first time around, we don't. And sometimes, one thing that I don't know if you noticed this during the show, but there were some things that we didn't learn until we saw the credits or until we read them. So, Richard Horn, for example, was somebody who wasn't identified by dialogue or anyone. I mean, you just saw, well, this guy is the worst person I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then we learned who that was.
Yes.
And sometimes for me that was a little bit of a frustration. Did that bother you at all, or did it not have any impact?
It didn't. It certainly had an impact. It didn't bother me. Maybe I should tell you this story that happened the first time all of us. I think it was the first time all of us actually saw the pilot together.
Okay. The pilot.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you kidding? Yes, please.
And there was a Q&A afterwards. And someone said, I thought that when Sarah was crying and screaming about knowing that Laura was dead, that just made me cry. I was so moved. And for God's sake, I heard people laughing. Right? And of course that made me laugh. privately. But afterwards, a reporter came up and said, "How did you feel when you did that, very moving scene, and then some people were laughing? How did that make you feel?"
Right.
And I said, it made me feel like, whoa, this is working. Because if there's one thing that maybe, I don't know if this was like a universally understood thing among David Lynch fans, the way that it was eventually by Twin Peaks fans. Mm-hmm. But the combination of the horrible and the funny is as central to his way of seeing things, I guess, as any single thing.
Sure.
And this person was did not under. Then they said, "You mean that you were not affronted by that?" And I said, "No."
No, I mean it's. Well, there are times. It's interesting because some of how those things are mixed in The Return, it's a bit different than in the first couple of years.
Yes.
I mean, in the first couple of years, we had Invitation to Love, and there were some more. I mean, there were some soap opera tropes. There were some,
absolutely,
kind of going on.
But apart from that, from those pieces of the work, the central. I guess one thing that I've always felt excited about when working with David is that I feel as though he knows he can rely on me to be real and go so far that, yes, people will start laughing.
Do you think...
But I want... It's not... I forgot. Yes. I forgot the last thing. Oh, I can't believe I forgot this part of the story. And when they said, "So weren't you affronted?" And I said no. And he said, "So you mean you were playing it for laughs?" That's what he said. And I said, "Oh dear God, you know what? There's something in between. There's something else besides playing it for laughs and not playing it for laughs."
And just playing it for real.
No, I wasn't playing it for laughs. Did I understand then that people would laugh? No. No. But long before I actually got to see it, I certainly knew enough to hope.
Sure. Yeah, and I think it's any time something is, I mean, there are a lot of sad things in the world, but there are a lot of very funny things in the world, and they're all real. And I think that something can be funny and sad at the same time, and it's going to hit people in different ways, and they're both totally valid. Was it in terms of the humor this time around?
Yeah.
So, and I probably specifically some of the stuff with Dougie when he was Dougie Jones or Dougie Coop, however, which felt that felt more that kind of. What am I trying to say? I'm sorry. Did you feel the way that David played with that balance was different in The Return than it was?
Yes, it was. Mm-hmm. It was. Yeah, it was quite different, actually.
In your case, Sarah did not get a lot of fun stuff.
Not so much, no.
This time around, but definitely there's.
Well, that's for me to say. What was fun, isn't it?
Well, I mean,
fun to me.
Well, that is all that counts. No, I mean so for example, like the grocery store, it starts off, and as it goes on, it gets pretty nerve-wracking, but it started off in a much lighter place. And
if you count an alcoholic upset that there's not one more bottle for her to put in the cart.
Well, look, I've been there. I've been there. That's a typical Thursday for me.
Okay.
No, I mean it's. I wouldn't say that in and of itself is light, but just somebody who has dealt with what Sarah has had to deal with, having to chat with a couple of teenagers about what's on the shelf. It's a fun...
No. By the time she asks about it, she's already been...
Well, by the time she's... Right. By the time she's asking about it, I guess just sort of seeing their reaction to her, because you guys are interacting. you're maybe not talking and you're not addressing yet, but they're responding and they don't know.
They're responding. I'm really almost.
You're in a different. You're in a different place.
Yeah.
All together, but it is. It does feel this time around that there wasn't as much lightness in the return than in season 1 and season 2.
There's a lot of lightness in it, actually. It's just that he doesn't do the same thing of going from. He didn't so much, I guess, do what he. I was really. Yeah, he used me differently this time, I would say, as he did everyone, I suppose.
Sure.
But what I have been good for in the past is taking something real and just taking it too far, with him constantly pushing me to go further and further and further.
When
he still pushes me to go further at times.
And do you feel that's what we're ending up watching? Is when?
No, I remember when we did a phone call way back that he pushed me, and I said, David, I have been over the top for the last 17 takes. Really, another more?
Yeah.
And he said, yes, you got more? You got another one? Come on, but he did not use the most extreme.
Right.
I would say.
And is that typically of what he does, or just when he's pushing you in that way?
Is what would he do? Oh, does he?
Would he not use the most extreme?
Maybe sometimes he did. In that case, I think he did not. But I could be wrong because it's so long between the time you do it and when you see it that you may remember things wrongly.
Right. No, I know the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I definitely know the feeling.
Yeah.
And you've definitely given us many, many, many of those moments. So thank you so much for that. This has been phenomenal and a real privilege to get to talk to you and stumble over questions.
You were great. I have really enjoyed this.
Oh, well, that is, thank you. And I hope half as much as we did. So, boy, it's really too bad that Bubba didn't get to be a part of this week's episode of Twin Peaks The Gifted.
And the damned, I'll say.
Where the hell is he?
So I know for a fact that we're going to have so many of our double L's.
What the hell is that?
Our loyal listeners that are...
Loyal listeners?
Well,
okay.
They
okay, never mind. Continue.
Well, I mean, loyalty has...
Double L's. Got it.
Double L's. Okay.
Yeah.
You will not believe some of the things that some of our double L's will say, whether it's on, Facebook.
Wait. The what?
Our double L's.
Yeah. And what does that mean?
Oh, loyal listeners.
Oh, I see. Well, I'm glad you have those.
Well, we have 2.
Therefore, double.
It's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's exactly right.
I get it.
We're very proud.
I feel the same about my fans.
Well,
there's only a few of them, very, very few of them, but they're so smart. Do you realize the level of taste that a person has to have?
Look, I'm not saying that
I am their favorite actor, or even among their favorite actors.
Look,
that's a huge level of discrimination and taste.
Well, just because someone can't accurately describe a sunset doesn't mean that they can't appreciate it. Have you thought about doing a podcast?
Myself?
Yeah.
No, I won't even go on Twitter.
Oh, well, that's okay. I mean, why? Because you would not stop tweeting, or you would not stop reading tweets?
I don't have the time.
Yeah, I think that is a big drawback.
I mean, people sometimes see my work and they say, so this is your hobby. And I'd say, I do not have time for hobbies.
No, I don't. I think if, I got a very extremely rare treat of seeing part of the headquarters of the workshop, mission control. And this is not a minor passion. I mean, this is pretty serious in terms of your commitment to it and your...
Yeah, well, when I'm doing it, it's all I care about, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well,
when I'm writing a poem, that's all I care about. And so, I'm very fickle.
Well,
When I'm in one, the other lovers are lost, gone.
well, they'll just have to wait and be patient because it's beautiful stuff. You're very welcome. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Everyone who is listening, whether you are a double L, the loyal listener, or not, should go to www.gracezabriskie.com, and that is Z as in zebra, A as in apple, B as in boy, R as in rainbow, I as in Italy, S as in Sam, K as in Kentucky, I as in Italy, E as in England.com, and you will, number one, be blown away by so much of the artwork there. Learn more about what she's up to when she is not sharpening knives or chisels or reading poetry or playing unforgettable characters that will live in infamy and infinity. So yeah, go do that. And we will see you next time on Twin Peaks: The Gifted.
And the damned.
Man, oh man, oh man, I am so jealous. She sounds so intelligent, so funny, so nice. Man, I wish I could have gone. Darn, work. We need our listeners to. We need to set up a Patreon or ads so I don't have to work and I can go on these fun things. That sounds great.
Step one, double L's.
Double L's.
Loyal listeners.
Oh yeah.
Is to get Bubba fired. So
yeah, I'm doing well enough on my own.
Detailed instructions will be posted to the Facebook page to see how to do that. So if and we are working on more of these. We don't have any. We have a couple that are written in pencil, but not pen, and those ones that, as far as we know, Bubba will be there as well. So he will get to kick me under the table as opposed to
editing the living hell out of your questions. That's true.
That is.
Well, I gave you some questions to ask, and she answered my question. So even if I wasn't there, I'll pretend that I was.
Oh yeah, no.
She wonderful. Thank you so much, Grace Zabriskie. So nice. And I should tell our listeners that this wasn't all that you guys talked about. We're saving some of this, and on our next podcast, David Lynch, The World of Twin Peaks, Mark Frost, they've created, it revolves around dreams a lot. And so we'll have some more from Grace on our next podcast where she gets into dreams. And it's just brilliant. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, it's really great. And there's also, I want to mention for so many of you who are fans of hers, if you haven't heard the interview that she did with Joe Frank, and you can find it online, and I'm not sure if it's joefrank.com, but you can use the Google.
Way to really support the listeners by, hey, go find this thing that I don't really know about.
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I hate to say it. I think he may actually have a paywall or something like that. Oh. So there are ways to find it. And she talks about growing up in New Orleans and some of the characters in Nolans and some of the characters that she encountered growing up. Very, very cool. And I think it's just, one reason of why she's such a cool lady and why it was such a good time just speaking to her and getting to interview her.
Man, I'm jealous. Okay, well, let's end this podcast by let's leave my kitchen. Let's go 1.3 miles down to this Twin Peaks RR pop-up. It's going to be great.
Okay. It's only going to take us 3 hours to walk.
LA traffic, yeah. Mork, we just left the Twin Peaks pop-up. We were in line for how long?
Oh, it was only 3 or 4 hours.
But we got in. We're currently in the car driving away from the Twin Peaks pop-up. We spoke to many Twin Peaks stars.
Some stuff. Bubba stole some things. But, yeah, we got to meet Officer Friendly, played by Eric J. Edelstein. We got to meet Mike the Spike.
You mean Ike the Spike, Mork. It's only been a couple of weeks. It was a Fusco, one of the Detective Fuscos, who you are calling Officer Friendly right now. Ike the Spike, not Mike the Spike. Okay, do we want to go further? Who was in there? Who else?
Miriam?
We talked to Miriam. We talked to...
Got a light.
Right, that Woodman. And 3 Woodmen were here. It was pretty exciting.
No, it was very cool. We were in line for a while, but after... a couple hours, they came out and they were giving us water, they were taking pictures. They're actually very polite, very sweet, and love talking about it. We got into a couple of arguments with some of the cast. They don't know what's going on either, but that's quite all right. It was a lot of fun.
Madeline Zima, who was Tracy, who got her head crushed in the Glass Box Monster episode in New York City. She was here. Officer Cindy Knox was here. Boy, she is tall, beautiful. Everybody, they were so nice, weren't they?
Yeah, no, they were definitely showing their love for the fans and showing their appreciation for us coming out and beating the heat. We tried to go earlier in the week. We're recording this on a Friday. We actually tried on Monday, and my toupee melted.
It was ridiculously hot. When you get into the Twin Peaks pop-up diner experience, you're seated at the counter there at this version of the Double R. You're offered donuts or cherry pie, hot coffee, and Mork, you were just saying about the coffee. Let's hear it. Give us your Yelp review of the pie and the coffee.
Damn good coffee. It was. I didn't expect it to be so good. Although when you walk in, I have to say, this felt a little bit more like a Norma's Diner that Walter would have run, as opposed to the real R&R, Double R. But you know, they got us in, they got us seated, they gave us some things to drink, and they managed to sell us some trinkets that will be given away for some of our Double L's.
Double L's?
Our loyal listeners.
Let me tell you, I'm not a huge pie person myself, and so I got a donut, but I asked him, I go, well, what flavor is the donut? And the server kind of shrugged and said, it's got a chevron on it. And I went, does that mean it's chevron flavor? And he goes, well, it's just a donut. Eat the damn donut. You know, like, he wasn't ready for that question. But it was actually a damn fine donut as well.
Yeah, it was sort of a madhouse in there because, you know, people were waiting for a long time, and then you get there and you kind of want to do everything at once. But some of the actors were hanging out inside. We got to spend some time with them inside as well, which was really fun. That's where we got to talk to Ike as well as one of his victims.
Yeah, I think her character name was Lorraine, but it was real fun. They have a great attitude since Ike the Spike killed her there at her office. It was really good. Kimmy Robertson, we saw briefly, who came out and was concerned about people waiting in this painfully long line.
She was very concerned. She did her best. Lucy was definitely in charge and making great things happen. It was a blast.
Now, what was the most expensive item that you considered buying? There was some stuff that was really expensive, but what was the most expensive item that you considered buying, Mork? Let's hear it.
Well, I feel bad saying because I don't want our Double L's to think that we don't value them for the prizes. However, there was a poster. I won't say the price, but
say it. Come on.
Okay. All right. People, you're going to know, if you didn't know already, I'm a real cheapskate. But and normally Bubba fronts the prize money, but I picked up a couple of things and I asked, hey, how much is that Golden Shovel poster? And it had the motto about shoveling your way out, and from Dr. Amp. And so how much is that Golden Shovel poster? And he looked at me very seriously and he said, well, the fine art print is $95, sir. And so I politely...
Holy smokes! I was actually trying on the Mr. C outfit. They had his snakeskin shirt and his leather jacket, so I was trying that on, Mork, while you were getting the prices. Holy crap! That's a lot of money for a poster.
No, it was a fine art print, sir.
Oh, okay.
No, it was a little much, but they did have some cool patches. They did have a actual room key, room 315 from the Great Northern,
which apparently also works in the basement, we learned in the return. It was pretty cool. I mean, seeing that many Twin Peaks celebrities all at one time. And let's be honest, even though there were 15 Twin Peaks celebrities there, because the cast of the return was so large, that was probably like 3% of the cast.
Yeah, no, it was a few folks. And one thing, when we were talking to Ike, and we'll remind ourselves of his actual name later, but when we were talking to Ike the Spike, one thing that he told us that was kind of cool was, you know, because he was in a bunch of scenes, but they just, you know, when they shot it, I don't know if they shot it chronologically or not, but this was over the course of a few months where he'd go and he'd have to get ready and drink a lot of. He described the movie whiskey that he had to drink in the hotel.
Well, we naturally assumed that Ike the Spike, the actor, was drinking something like tea. The color's close enough, but he said no. This was Warner Brothers, as he described it, booze. Warner Brothers bourbon that was fake, and he didn't sound like it tasted too good to him, did it?
No, well, it was part of how they got him to go into that murderous rage to kill poor Loretta, among other people.
Lorraine, but
Lorraine.
Facebook.com/Double P Podcast. So, Mork, this ends another gigantic podcast where we had your incredible interview with Grace Zabriskie. We just visited the Twin Peaks pop-up. In a couple weeks, we'll be back with Mark Frost's new book. Twin Peaks will never end, will it? It was always with us.
No, that was one of the things we were talking about with some of the actors where we were sort of joking. We weren't really arguing. We were sort of just joking about it, and that was the thing. What's so great about this past season is we'll be able to discuss it forever and ever, and not just because we have a podcast. We legitimately will be arguing over the show for a very, very long time. So this was a lot of fun. We'll see you guys very, very soon.
So please subscribe to us. Subscribe to the podcast. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Double P Podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcast, plural. Like the page. Keep up with us because we got a lot of great stuff coming up. For everybody here on the Double P Podcast Network, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter.
And Mork is at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with a W in front of the final R.
And you'll hear us next time on Twin Peaks: The Gifted.
And the Damned.
And the $90 fine poster.